I'm Lexi. I'm in the US. Today we are going to look at another one of my family recipes. It's Christmas time, and around Christmas, a lot of people like to make cookies or candy for their family or friends. And at least in America, one really popular candy that a lot of people make is fudge. And I love fudge. It's just so rich and chocolatey and dense and perfect. Well, this is my grandma's fudge recipe, and this is the same grandma that gave us the oatmeal cookies, the oatmeal specials that we looked at a few months ago. And I'm sure that I ate this fudge at some point in my life. I know that my aunts used to make butterscotch fudge, so I'm pretty certain that they made this, or that my grandmother made this when I was young too. But I know I haven't had it in years. And fudge isn't something that I normally make. I've done it a time or two, but not enough that I have my own dedicated fudge recipe that I use. There's this funny story about how my grandma used to make this all the time, like almost every day after school. Or maybe it was my aunt. Maybe I'm mixing things up, but I think it was my grandma. Used to make it every day. And then it started coming out wrong. So she stopped making it for a long time. And then decided she wanted to make it again one day. Got the recipe out to look at it because she'd always made it by memory since she was doing it every day. Of course she remembered the recipe. Got out the recipe to take a look at it, and she'd been making it wrong. And that was why it stopped coming out right. So, does that sound a little familiar from another video? Our Food Not Waste video, where I managed to mess up a recipe trying to do it from memory? Check your recipes, people. Very important. So, let's take a look at this and see what Grandma used to make. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is take like an 8 or 9 inch pan and butter it. This will hopefully help the fudge come out of the pan once it's set. I have no idea how far up this is going to go, so I'm just going to do the whole thing. Okay. We set this aside. You're going to want to use a bigger pot than you think you need, because there's milk in this, and milk is going to boil over in a heartbeat. So this is my big soup pot, and the first thing that we are going to put in this is 3 cups or 600 grams of sugar. It's a lot of sugar, but it's fudge, so yum. I had this sitting in the fridge. It must have picked up a little bit of moisture. Okay, the next thing is 2/3 of a cup or 65 grams of cocoa powder. Chocolate. A pinch of salt. And a 1.5 cups or 350 grams of milk. Want to stir to combine. And then you're going to put this on the stove and bring it up to a boil while stirring constantly. Once it comes to a boil, you want to stop stirring, because at that point, if you stir at the wrong moment, it can crystallize, and you don't want crystallized fudge. So bring it to a boil while stirring, then stop stirring until your thermometer reads 234 degrees Fahrenheit or 112.2 degrees Celsius. You can use a candy thermometer for this,
But I'm going to use a digital thermometer because that's what I have. I should have sifted this cocoa powder, huh? Sift the cocoa powder. That's most of the lumps. Hopefully, once we apply some heat, the rest of the lumps will stir out. Okay, bring this to a boil, stop stirring, let it continue to boil until you reach 234 degrees Fahrenheit or 112 degrees Celsius. Then I will see you right back here for the next step. Okay, so we're back and we're at 234 degrees Fahrenheit. The next thing we need to do is add in a 1/4 cup or 57 grams of butter. We're just gonna gently plop that in. And about a teaspoon of vanilla. Starting to get kind of low on vanilla, aren't I? Now you don't want to stir this yet. You want to let it just sit and come down to 110 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 43.3 degrees Celsius. Sorry, I still have to check my notes on all the conversions. But let this sit and keep taking its temperature until it comes down to 110 degrees. Then I'll see you in a second. That took a while, but we're down to 110 degrees. So now we stir. It says to do this with a wooden spoon, but as we've already established, I'm quite odd. I don't actually have any wooden spoons. So we're using this spatula spoon thing. The recipe says to beat it until it loses its gloss. So presumably, we're trying to beat some air into this. I may have still chosen the wrong spoon. This stuff is pretty thick and sticky at this point. You know what? I'm gonna put it's sliding all over the place. I'm putting a pot holder there. There, now it's not gonna slide. This takes a little bit of elbow grease. Didn't quite anticipate that. But then, back when my grandma would have made this, I'm not sure how common electric mixers would have been. And I don't want to give years because I don't want to date myself that badly. Okay, this is obviously going to take a minute. I'm going to stir. After it's done being stirred until it's thickened and loses its gloss, then you scoop it into that buttered pan that we prepared earlier. At which point, you need to let it set for a while. But we all know how patient I am about letting things set or cool or whatever before I taste them for you on video. So we'll see how long I let this set. But I will see you back in the normal place in a minute. Bye.
Okay, so like I said, I tend to be kind of impatient. But this looks pretty set to me, right? It feels pretty set. Might be a little soft on the bottom in the middle. But this corner piece, well, the corners never come out nicely, do they? Well, I guess the first piece never comes out nicely. But this looks really good. Smooth, rich, delicious. You can taste the butter I wouldn't have thought that the butter would have been this prevalent. This is really good. I don't know if I'd call it the best fudge I've ever had. The other couple of fudge recipes that I've tried called for melting down chocolate chips. And I think that that gives a more intense chocolate flavor than just using cocoa powder. But it's not like I'm not going to eat that. In fact, I may have to, like, hide some of it so that I don't eat it all. It probably could have used stirred some more. I did end up switching to a whisk after I turned off the camera. And even then, all I can say is, Grandma, you had some really strong arms if you were making this all the time. But, it's good. If you want to mix in some walnuts or put them on top, or maybe a little bit of cinnamon, or, ooh, some peppermint extract might be good for Christmas, like a chocolate peppermint vibe. So this could be a real good base for turning into my recipe, but it's still my grandma's. One more bite. That's growing on me quite a bit. I think what I might do next time is I tend to prefer the darker cocoa powder. But this recipe called for the lighter stuff. So I think next time I'll make it with the darker cocoa powder, and that'll probably do it for me. That's probably all I need to make this. As is, with the lighter cocoa powder, I'm going to give it an 8. But I'm going to bet if I use that darker cocoa powder, this is going to hit a 9. So I might play with this a little. Check out my Instagram. If I play with the recipe, I'll post it on there. But for now, if you could give the video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, I'd really appreciate it. And may all of your holiday food endeavors, be they cooking or baking or eating, be successful and pleasurable. I'll see you in the next one. Merry Christmas.